it. Democrats like to tell us that it's just being anti-racist and it's just teaching about things like slavery and Juneteenth. Republicans, like myself, we see it as something different. It's this cult of shame, of trying to shame people and you separate people by oppressed versus oppressor. And the more you learn about it, really learn about it, the sicker it becomes. I'm very excited about my next guest. You all know him very well. He's been on the show before when he broke the incredible story about John Weaver, which I'm hoping I can ask him about in a little bit. But Ryan Girdusky, thank you so much for joining the show.
Thank you for having me, Grace.
All right, so your piece in Mediaite is the media is gaslighting America on critical race theory. I've been noticing this too, Ryan, that there seems to be this argument when you combat critical race theory or you criticize it that, oh, you don't even know what it is. That's not really what critical race theory is. And you describe it as they're trying to kind of change the meaning of it. And you say it's like saying you gave up Pepsi because you started drinking Orange Crush. Can you kind of explain these mind games the left is playing with us?
Right. So I started the very first nationwide super PAC called the 1776 Project PAC to help support school board candidates who are opposed to critical race theory because I became extremely interested over the last year, like most Americans did, as being more incorporated in our education system. Critical race theory is a collection since around the 1970s. It is the reframing of the ideas of race and power and the relation to race and power. And there's a lot of different intellectuals behind critical race theory, but the main three theses of critical race theory is this. One, racism is something experienced by non-whites on a daily basis. Two, all whites, whether they be rich or poor, benefit from white supremacy. And three, our institutions are created in part to keep non-whites oppressed. So in order to then reframe how our society works, that means changing, fundamentally altering how we feel about ourselves, how we feel about others, and then how we feel about our institutions, and reframing whole institutions, not just, a certain law here or there or a certain elected official, but things like classical liberalism, things like judicial prudence, judicial blindness. Everything kind of entangled in post-Enlightenment Western civilization, they believe should absolutely be overthrown. And in fact, I think it was Ibram Kendi who sat there and said that we need to create a fourth branch of the United States government called the Department of Anti-Racism that would have more control and more power than the Supreme Court.
Ryan, we lost you there for a sec. Are you still there? Hello? You know what? We're going to take Ryan off for a second and try to get him back. It's interesting because what I keep hearing from liberals is that I just don't understand critical race theory. And someone who's particularly obnoxious about it is actually Joy Reid. She tends to really look down on people. And I saw yesterday, it was pretty incredible. There was this big meeting in Virginia, I believe it was, of parents who were opposing critical race theory. And a liberal blue check started saying, these are the people who think they can control what their kids learn. And then other people were responding back, well, yeah, they're the parents. They do want to have a choice in what their kids learn. Ryan, I guess my next question for you is, when people like Joy Reid say, well, they're not teaching this K through 12. It's only at law schools or it's only in certain universities.
That's where they're gaslighting you.
Okay, so go into that a little bit for people.
So sorry about this. So critical race theory, how it's being implemented in schools, it's not direct. They're not teaching direct resources in every institution. What they're doing is three major things. One, they're forcing teachers, even as low as kindergarten classes, to take something called equity training. Equity training teaches critical race theory and how to incorporate critical race theory in subjects in schools. This is when they're doing things like forcing teachers to sing the Black National Anthem, forcing them to face their white supremacy, and teaching them how to incorporate those ideas and other critical race theory ideas into their lesson plans, into subjects. Secondly, by offering children the opportunities to read critical race theorists, modern critical race theorists, in extracurricular stuff or in summer reading programs. And then thirdly, through the superintendents of the schools, creating quote unquote anti-racist policies when it comes to everything from reporting an incident at school, like in Loudoun County, Virginia. Non-white students are allowed to report incidents of racism without having to ever face their accuser or having to give specifics of an event. They can just blindly accuse people of it, and they are taken as legitimate as you would have to if you acknowledge your accuser, all the way up to how to incorporate critical race theory and transgenderism into subject matters like having learned experiences or how do you feel. This is not, a hard way of introducing it, but they could sit there and say, how should this feel? And they bring certain ideas of critical race theory as known facts. So,
wait, Ryan, can I stop you right there for one sec? Because all I can think about when you say this about being able, one student being able to say that, I feel as though X was racist to me. Without having to explain why or even, let them face the accuser. All I can think about is like the Salem witch trials. Like we're all going to start pointing at each other going, she was racist. And well, why? Well, how do you have proof? I don't have proof, but I feel it. I feel it in my soul. It really does get to kind of a cultish level.
Well, at the Salem witch trial, at least you had to face your accuser. In Loudoun County, Virginia, you don't. And lastly, they take certain ideas as law in their teaching, as rules in their teaching. So systemic racism is not an idea, it is a fact in many of these classrooms. And then you have to explain backwards how systemic racism it was, dealt with this issue or that issue or this issue. So the idea of critical race theory, that there's systemic racism through our institutions and non-whites feel it all the time and whites always benefit, that is the ground level fact to many of these teachers and many of these lessons plans. And, they may not sit there and build from there, but that is to be the accepted common norm that all students must learn and understand, and then it gets implemented, wherever they're on out.
Now, Ryan, before I let you go, because we are running out of time, I do have to ask you. I know that you were a huge part of breaking the John Weaver story. I mean, you broke it basically, and now it's come out that the Lincoln Project, they had an internal investigation. And it kind of cleared a lot of things up. What do you think of this investigation at the Lincoln Project?
Yeah, very quickly, the investigation was done by an independent firm, which is a very good firm, but they are donors to the Lincoln Project. They were hired by, they're donors of the Lincoln Project. They were hired by the firm. The quote that they say was that none of the co-founders knew about John Weaver preying on underage men. By the way, no one made that accusation because I believe, as every other reporter did, that he kept that from everybody. That he was, but the quote was that he did not. The quote from the memo that the law firm put out was that he did not make any charge that was. I think it was that it could be a lawsuit worthy or something like that. I forget the exact legal terminologies, but basically could be either criminal or guilty of a lawsuit. It's such a broad term that it doesn't actually mean anything. And the major question was, did they know that he was offering jobs for sex from young men, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, not underage men, because I know that they didn't know about that, but young men. They never addressed that in the memo once. It's never thought about in the memo once. It's such a sham of an investigation. Also, several of the major sources, the people who really broke the door open on this story, who were sexually harassed and who got all the other young men who were sexually harassed, were never called into question. They were never asked I spoke to several of them today. They were never asked by the investigative firm about it. I mean, it's such a joke.
Ryan,
and it's happening right before their major fundraiser in California. So let's all put that in perspective.
Ryan Girdusky, thank you so much for joining the show. Everyone should follow him on Twitter at Ryan Girdusky. He also has a fabulous Substack, so make sure you check that out. Thank you very much, Ryan. We hope to have you on again soon. It's true what they say, a perfect smile, change your smile, change your life. I saw the change with Howie, with the mailroom manager, and with just so many people. I mean, I went into Perfect Smiles the other day, and I got to get my teeth cleaned, and I was so excited, and Howie was absolutely right. It was the best teeth cleaning I'd ever had. And I was looking around the room, and they have all these pictures of people with completely transformed smiles. It's really something to see. Many people walk around not smiling because they aren't happy with their teeth. A lot of people, Stephanie told me this, they started realizing how unhappy they were with their teeth when they were sad that they could take their masks off, because they wanted to take their masks off, but they were like, oh, now people are going to see my teeth again. And that's not the way you want to live. It really is amazing to watch the testimonial videos at perfectsmiles.com. I highly recommend you go to the website and watch them, because you'll hear from these people whose lives have been so changed for the better. And you'll say, forget Grace Curley. I don't need to take her word for it. I believe all of these people. And it really does make a huge impact if you check out the transformations. Dr. Houghton really is an artist. He's also an incredibly nice person. Perfect Smiles is conveniently located in Nashua, New Hampshire. Parking is free. The staff is warm and welcoming. If you've been wanting to upgrade your look for years, contact them today and look at their video testimonials. Go to perfectsmiles.com. That's perfectsmiles.com. Change your smile, change your life. All right, so I have a whole stack of stories, and they're all about different ways critical race theory and woke-utopia and political correctness is slowly but surely destroying our society. And I guess the reason that I want to talk about this, besides the fact that it's in the news and it really is, it's getting parents really riled up, as it should. And parents are really speaking out about this, and they're being met with smugness and condescension from the liberal elites. But really, where that comes from is fear. They're afraid. They're afraid that people are picking up on this. They're afraid that people are going to ruin their good time and ruin their indoctrination of all these young kids. And it got me thinking. Yesterday, we had a couple VIPs here, and I just happened to walk by the conference room where they were eating, and I started talking to one of the women. And she started talking about what they taught her kid in school, and how at one point they had them all raise their hands. Who wants to vote for Joe Biden? And the kids who didn't want to raise their hand for Joe Biden were, bullied and, felt pressure from the school and from other students. And then just the things they learn, the books that they're given, the activist programs that they're taught. And this mother got so passionate. The kind of passion where I stop and go, wow, I want those people to call in to the radio show, and I want people to hear this. So if you have any experience, whether it be your kid being brainwashed in school, whether it be your work making you go through diversity university, equity training, telling you to be less white, Coca-Cola, I want to hear those stories. I want to give everyone a platform right now to discuss it. 844-500-4242. And I'll also be reading the Christopher Rufo piece in the New York Post where he blasts the Washington Post for their spectacular failure in trying to smear him. We'll be right back. I want to hear your side of the story. 844-500-4242. It's the Grace Curley Show.
You're listening to The Grace Curley Show.